Hello and welcome back to another Succeed with Dyslexia. We are doing a fantastic campaign this month around dyslexia and mental health. Now, this is to raise more awareness around dyslexia and mental health. Now, we're speaking to some incredible people, and we've had some fantastic guests. And with that being said, today we have another phenomenal guest. Sally, I cannot say thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. So, if you could just give us tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and like I said, we're thrilled to have you, and we're excited to discuss this topic.
Hi, Darren. Thank you. So I'm Sally Tunstall. I'm 52 and I'm dyslexic, which I've had, as weird as it sounds, my whole life, but only actually started embracing it probably in the last sort of 5 years, which has, really helped me within my role as a counsellor, but also I'm an early help worker, which works with young people and families in children's services in Boston and South Holland area in Lincolnshire.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'd love to dive into the incredible work that you're doing throughout this conversation. When you say it's funny because it's funny in a way that you said, I've had dyslexia, all my life and this, I mean, my dyslexia for me, I was diagnosed at the age of 36. So I still feel it's still a new, even though it's been there, I still feel it's a very new thing for me to deal with. What was your kind of relationship? When were you kind of diagnosed, and what was your kind of relationship before with dyslexia?
I think when I sort of reflect back when I was younger, as much as I went to school, I absolutely hated school. And I couldn't quite put my finger on why, because my brother and my sister are older than me. And they went to college. My sister did secretarial. My brother done sport, psychology and all that sort of stuff. And I just didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I also didn't feel that I was as academic as they were. So again, that was sort of a barrier for myself. So I went straight into work. So I've literally worked since I was 13 in jobs. So it's only, I think, since as I've got older and I've done more academic jobs where there's a lot more writing, typing, that sort of thing, that I've sort of started to realise, actually, I do struggle with this, but, as I was younger, you just learn to deal with it. You find your own strategies, don't you, in many things. And it's only my managers through my life, probably in the last sort of 15 years, that they've always said to me, "Are you dyslexic?" So it's my managers through my writing and my admin side of my job that actually have sort of brought that to my attention. And as awful as it sounds, sometimes I never found that offensive, because I'm quite happy with who I am, and I understand that there is a struggle with it. Yeah. But I never really knew to a point what that meant to be dyslexic.
Yes.
I just knew that I struggled. And I can write words backwards, but I know what it means, So for me, I know exactly what the word is. And then through my role at the moment as an early help worker, my manager was amazing. And we have to write a lot of notes up for our visits. So she kept sort of saying to me, okay, for our note taking, she would sort of ping it back to me and say, brilliant, really great, really understands well, but can you just look through and just change some of the spelling? So I would read it and think, well, it's fine.
I would, to be fair.
What? Yeah. What spelling? What are you talking about? So I'd send it back to her, done. She'd be like, yeah, can you just go through it again? And it was only through her supervision with her manager that she sort of was able to then say to me. And what was so lovely, she said, look, please don't be offended. And I'd get offended, but I don't get offended with that. And I knew what was coming. Because my other managers had said it. And she said, have you ever been diagnosed, or has anyone said about dyslexia? And I said, well, funny enough, yes. Every one of my managers has said that. And she was like, oh, I'm so pleased I haven't offended you.
I think it's that thing, when you mentioned about you can kind of see it coming, and that someone's mentioned it before. Yeah. And I guess it's that feeling, isn't it, of almost like, oh my goodness, they're going to have this conversation. How's this going to? Because in your head you'll be thinking, I've seen this play out before, but how is it going to be dealt with? Yeah, and I guess that can, I get potentially build up a bit of anxiety in yourselves, around that. But the more times it happens, I guess you then start thinking, well, actually, that just becomes the norm, which is.
Yeah. And you're right, Darren. And to be honest, it has. And I would have been, as weird as it sounds, like I would have been surprised if she hadn't have asked me because that was my norm.
Yeah, you're almost just waiting. So, at what point will this question be raised and asked? So going back to saying you started work around 13.
I worked in a shoe shop.
Did you?
Yeah, as a Saturday girl, and I absolutely loved it. I used to get shoes for like 20p that were in the sand and would just leave them there and then discount. It was I have a bit of a thing about shoes from that job.
That's a good thing. So what was the experience like? Because I remember I was working in a fruit and veg shop at the age of about 12. I think the only payment that I had was a can of pop in a chocolate bar or something. But see, doing those kind of odd jobs and all those different things, I actually felt like I'd found a bit of a place. So I'd almost found, in one part of me, I felt like I grew up too quickly because I wanted to get into the world of work, because I felt like I understood the world of work, in the different jobs I did. But the educational side of it, the school side of it, I just felt I just couldn't relate. Was that something that you found?
Yeah, very much so. I would have given up school at 13 and gone and worked, because for me that was it sounds really sort of dramatic, and to a point I suppose for me at the time I felt at home. I felt that it was I was good at it, and I was good at it. I absolutely loved it, but at school I found it so hard. It was such a chore to go to school. And I just, would sit in classrooms like many, many young people that I support now. And sometimes I didn't really have a clue what was going on because I just didn't understand some of it. And, the sad thing is, and as awful as it sounds saying in them days, because I'm not 100, but in them days, it wasn't necessarily identified. It was, every single, I sort of say about it now and to a point laugh about it, because sometimes we do laugh things off that we struggle with. Parents' evening, it was, could do better if concentrated more, could do better if, didn't talk, could do better. But what they didn't understand with that is I was really trying to do as much as I could. I just couldn't do better because I didn't understand it. But working, like I said, I just found who I was. I absolutely loved it. It built my social skills. It built my confidence. And then when I did leave school, with very, very little, if I don't even know what qualifications, the same shoe shop offered me a job window dressing all over the country. And it was amazing. I loved it. I used to get on the bus, the train, and I would travel all over the place. And this is when I was living down because I come from London originally. And it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And I never really regretted school until I had children of my own and pushed them so much more. And the funny thing is, I'm dyslexic and I struggled very much with my education, but I have a daughter who's an English teacher. And I take great pride in that.
Congratulations. No. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Do you feel because I have, with regards to my educational system, the educational experience, I'm still, a massive believer in the educational system in the sense of that, in the sense that to get those good grades, maybe to go to college, university and all these different things. Yeah. Because I guess from one angle, I'm thinking I would hate someone to have to go through the sheer struggle that I had to, because leaving school without any qualifications and not being able to really fully fill in those application forms. We had the application forms where you literally fill them in with pen and these kind of online malarkey that they have now.
Oh yes.
But that's the difficult part is I always say whenever I speak to someone about the application form, I always say that box in the top right hand corner where you would put your qualifications, like what would you get in English and maths and humanities and science and all these things. That for me, I'd have to literally leave blank. So when you put your application form in, some people will feel, oh, okay, so they must have missed that box out. So there's a judgment on this. And then when you actually say, well, there's nothing to put in there, it builds up, it makes it just so much difficult. So do you feel with the educational side of it, you were just trying to kind of maybe not push, but, support even more to try and give that boost?
Yeah. And I mean, when I did my counselling qualification, I worked at the high school for 10 years supporting young girls and young boys in year 12 and 13. And I absolutely loved the job. It was the best job ever. But I wanted to, because of the things I think that I'd been through, I wanted to make sure that I was supporting these young people, one, in the ethical, the most ethical way I could do it, but also in the best way that I then wouldn't make their mental health worse. So I started, that's where I sort of got the incentive. And again, my manager pushed me, which I'm so, pleased that she did, to do my counselling qualification. So I did the level 2, which was, I think it was like 16 weeks. So it's fairly straightforward. It was, it was as much as I thought I was going to do for my level of learning. But I loved it that much. I wanted to do more.
Bless you.
So I did level 3 at Grantham. And I can remember, so many people might be able to relate to this, especially year 11s that have left previously with, very little qualifications or their English and maths lower. I had to do some tests to apply for level 3. And I knew straight away that I was not going to do well because, I'm doing these tests thinking I don't know what I'm doing. And I can remember the guy coming out saying, yeah, you failed. I don't think you're just not going to be able to do level 3. You're not going to be able to keep up. And I just thought, why would you say that to somebody that really wants to better themselves? There must be better words that you can use. Because I know I know that I'm dyslexic. I know that I struggle myself. I don't need somebody pointing that out to me. But also I thought, you know what? Sod you. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Absolutely.
So I did level 3 and then I did 2 years of level 4. And that's when I got my qualification as a qualified counsellor. It was the hardest thing, Darren, I've ever done in my life academically. Hardest thing ever.
Do you know what? I find that's goose pimples or, all coming up. That is so inspirational, honestly.
Yeah.
That honestly, do you know what I love about that is that we deem to think that within the educational side of it is within school, we always say, okay, so in school, I didn't get this, I didn't get it, but learning continues throughout the rest of our lives. Yeah, and even that opportunity of how within the educational side of it, between, the first kind of 18 years, there's so many opportunities after that to continue that love of learning. Yeah. Do you feel that you've because within the educational side of it, you had this relationship with school similar to what you're saying, similar to mine, this kind of love-hate relationship with school. Do you feel that it because you were kind of deprived, I guess, of that way of learning, that you crave learning even more now?
Oh God, yes, so much. I miss. So when I left the high school, I went and worked at a secure unit, and again, I absolutely loved it. And you had to do a level 3 qualification for working with children and young people, and I didn't, for the first time, panic about having to do something learning. It was online, and Rachel, my support worker, she was fantastic from the college. She understood what I needed, the same as they did at Grantham, and I just did it. I I think within sort of 8 or 9 months. I was just so proud, so proud of myself. And I think it's okay to be proud of yourself. It's not that you're big-headed. It's not that, because we struggle so much with that, and because of the struggle where we're not allowed in society to big ourselves up. We're not allowed in society to go, well done. Well, actually, that's one thing I have learned. And I do that for myself. Because I think it's so important. Sorry.
I say that a lot.
You can get that out. It's fine. Sorry.
We'll keep that in. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Because I just think it's so important to, to say to yourself, I have got through so much, And, the mental health side, for me, I've had, different things in my life. I've had COVID, I've got long COVID, the anxieties around that. But I think, when we can sit there and say, well, actually, the education system, again, at my time, didn't necessarily work for me. Yeah. I was very lucky because I was very sporty. So I got through school by doing every single sport they ever threw at me because I was good at it. I played squash at, when I was at big school. I call it big school, secondary school, sorry. And I was the only girl in the school that played squash. And I used to go on to these squash games to other schools. There used to be about 12, 13, 14 lads and me in a minibus.
How wonderful. How wonderful.
I tell you what, it taught me a lot because they used to say jokes and they used to try to really embarrass me but it was just brilliant because it just taught me how to live. It just taught me a lot. Resilience. It taught me a big bit of resilience.
And that's the incredible part, because the confidence side of it would have been bashed, hypothetically.
And it was
bashed in one aspect, in the actual educational side of it. The exam you did was wrong. This was wrong. You're not very good at this. But then in sports, you excelled. But then you even excelled even more because you put yourself in these positions where potentially your confidence could be knocked again. If you're the only female in a kind of male orientated kind of game at that time. But that shows your sheer resilience. Speaking to you now and all these different things you're doing, it's that sheer resilience of actually I can do this, and I want to continue learning and improve it. I think it's so hard nowadays, again, like with the young people that I support with my, children's services role or my counselling role, the anxiety and that need and that want to be perfect in everything. It's such a pressure, it is such a pressure. We didn't necessarily have that pressure because obviously there wasn't the social media side of things when we were younger, but we still had different pressures that were put on us, but also that we put on ourselves. So it's just learning, in the strategies that we, find ourselves, or hopefully there's somebody out there that is willing to help us find them. That helps us get through sometimes day to day, minute to minute. Absolutely.
And it's, you can't necessarily say, for 6 months I'm going to be fine, because you don't know, because the struggles you have at, especially like I said at school, there is a lot of mental health around now. And when I've, supported people at school and they have got dyslexia and they have got other additional needs, it just puts that added thing onto them. And they just need, sometimes they don't need that person that I had at college coming out. I really don't think you should do this. I don't think you're going to do well. You haven't done well enough. Well, actually, mate, I don't need you to tell me that because I already feel that myself. But thanks for that.
It's incredible, those small little comments that have such a huge impact. It's and again, it just stays with you throughout the entire life. For me, I remember a teacher saying to me that my name wasn't on the board and I wasn't being put through to any exams because it'd be a waste of paper. Now I'm 45 years old, and that was told at me when I was 15, I think 14, 15. It's those comments that stick.
They do. And
I think the trouble with as we kind of go from generation to generation, we can only kind of relive. I can think about what my growing up was like for my generation, and then you look at the kind of the younger generation now, and you touched on the point so beautifully when you mentioned about the social media presence, and the pressures that brings. And again, like yourself, we didn't have that kind of those pressures. What are the kind of do you feel that brings a certain amount of pressure in the sense that they need to perform and always be, at their fully, at their best, when they're kind of in that environment, like in school or outside of school? Do you feel, have you had conversations around that before about the social kind of the stresses and anxieties that brings?
I mean, again, working at the high school, it was there all the time. So again, outside of school, the bullying would be the messages, the need to be perfect because your friend has got the perfect hair and the makeup, well, actually your friend probably took about 5 hours to do that, so that isn't perfect, and that very much relates to the advert. There's an advert on TV at the moment, isn't it? I'm not sure if it's Dove, where she's got the photo, where she's got a picture, and they take it's taken her hours to get ready, and they take the makeup off, they change the hair, and she's just left there with who she is. And it's such an amazing advert. It's so powerful. And I think things like that should be made more in school. They should be taken in school. They should be shown more in school. The PSHE, they don't do enough for me, I don't think, within that PSHE. Because I think they're missing a trick there. I think they could do so much for the young people within those things. Yes, there's certain things that have to be taught, of course, the curriculum, I understand that. But I think because the way the world is at the moment, I think they could tweak it. I really do think it would be important for them to be able to tweak that. I was talking to a young person a couple of days ago that I'd see, and they don't do really enough about gender, the gender identity. There's lots of things at the moment that, they should be doing. And again, with the dyslexia or the additional needs, doesn't mean that you can't do anything. It just means you get them in a different way to everybody else. And that's okay. It doesn't matter how you get there. Yeah. It's that support you need to get there, which for me, I'm so passionate about. It's so important that these young people have that.
Absolutely.
And if they don't, where do they end up?
Exactly. Do you feel that with the, just touching slightly on what we were talking about, kind of the social media and the social presence, do you feel that because the time, it's almost evolved so quickly that again, it's trying to understand how that works? Because I remember, it wasn't that long ago, you would, you go into a company and you would get this sheet of paper, and it would be about social media, and it would be basically you'd sign this form, there'd be a few things: don't bring the company to dispute, don't post about this, don't wear your company uniform, all these different things. And that was that for the kind of the work policy, probably like 4 or 5 years ago or something else like this. Then, but the mass, the sheer veracity of how social media affects our lives, now, literally, you don't go a day, an hour without a screen being in front of your, your face. And that, if you, like you said, you bring dyslexia on top of that, where you then stand out, so to speak, if the teacher takes you off into a different room to be, looked after, with kind of special tools to kind of, with the educational side of it, that and singling you out, it can have a real detrimental effect, can't it? It's just trying to manage all of those different things.
Yeah, and again, I think it makes it even more aware with that that if you don't have the correct support in place, because taking a young person out of a classroom, when you're at primary school, a lot of young people like to come out. It's a bit of fun. But from my experience at secondary school, they find it, they don't want to come out. They don't want that sort of special support, because what that means to them, through their friends, well, where did you go? So that message would go, well, where were you? What happened? We was in English, where did you go? So then they're then having to sort of explain where they were, to a point, try to justify it, which nobody should have to ever justify if they need that additional support for any reason. And so many young people then won't say anything because they don't want that additional support, because of what that means on their social media, their friends, contacting them. Oh, well, you missed this, so-and-so said this and blah, blah, blah. So it's already that barrier for them. So it really is, Darren. And all that, I think, for me, and from, again, the experience that I've got with young people, it just becomes that constant barrier. It doesn't necessarily help them. And I have been very lucky with my children, because I worked at the school. I had some really amazing best friends at school. I had one that was an English teacher that came and supported my son through his GCSEs because he needed that support. So I have been, I know that I've been very lucky for my children, but that's just me. Yeah. But the people that, the young people that I've supported, especially from a grammar school as well.
Yeah.
the pressure, the stress that they get from parents. And I do understand that. But if they do have something additional like dyslexia or something else, it is that constant wanting to try and do better.
Yeah.
But they're trying to do better, but they're being pushed down because of their additional needs.
Yeah.
And if they're struggling with their dyslexia in the classroom, that already before they've walked in, they know it's going to be hard.
Absolutely. Because it starts before school, doesn't it?
Of course it does. Yeah.
From the minute you wake up, there, there's different things that they might, we might find, more of a task to do. And then, that's a good couple of hours before you even enter the classroom. And then you've got 6 hours in front of you of a day in front of you to then try and weave your way through, the chicanes of all these different things that might even cause you even more stress. Then on top of that, coming back and then possibly having homework or the social media side of it. Yeah. It's a very delicate matter.
There's so many barriers. Yeah, it really is. And, you think of the year 11s now, for the first time in how many years, they're doing exams. They are doing their GCSEs, and year 13s, they're doing their A-levels to do their next step. Well, if you've got young people, which there is many, many out there that are in year 11, are in year 13 that do have dyslexia and again, other, additional needs, there's even more pressure on them. Their friends, again, like social media, like you said, they're posting, oh, yeah, I'm doing this, I've got this. But the pressure is huge. It really is. And again, I work in many, many schools, and I take great pride in what I did when I worked at the high school. Because me and, again, my manager, we worked so hard to build up a department to help the SEN side of things, but also the pastoral side. Yeah. And there's so many schools, it's so hard out there for them. Since COVID as well, it's got worse. And I hate saying that word because it's like a swear word now. but
it's reality, isn't it? And this is where we're having, the incredible work that you're doing is helping and making that difference. Sally, if people want to get in contact with yourself, how would they be able to connect with you?
So they can contact me through my email address. Do I say my email address, or
if you want to say your email address, or we can, you
can post that out with, then you've got my email address, so that's fine. Or
we'll post.
Yeah. You can post that on there. That's not a problem. And then obviously if they do want to contact me, I can then individually, if there was anybody, I can give them my number, then, we could sort of have a chat. But it's a lot out there. There's so much more that's needed to do, and this is amazing. Darren, what you and your team are doing, it's amazing because it's needed, but it's needed every month, not just May.
Absolutely, and within Succeed, we run so many different campaigns, and we're raising awareness on a 365-day campaign of raising awareness around dyslexia and everything else that that as a touch point within dyslexia. We look at dyslexia when someone doesn't really know much about it and they think it's just reading and writing difficulties, but there is so many different elements, and hopefully we're unearthing the different stigmas that get attached within this. So we will keep trying. But Sally, it's been absolutely phenomenal speaking to you. I could continue speaking to you all night, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
It's just
been amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Listening to yourself, and thank you as well for all the hard work that you're doing and helping. It's really making a difference.
Can I just say one thing?
Please do.
Anybody out there that is really struggling with their dyslexia, any age, what's really helped me is to be able to just say to myself, yeah, this is what I've got. I'm accepting it. And actually, it's changed my life. It really has changed my life because I'm just accepting it. And I say to people now, I can't do that. I'm struggling with that. I was reading with my granddaughter and I couldn't read some of the words. And I just like, well, Nana's dyslexic, but, because I'm accepting it now. It took me a long time, and it took me a long time to understand it, exactly what you just said, Darren. But once I have, and I'm understanding what it means for me, it's very individual. So just allow yourself to feel it and talk to somebody.
Absolutely, and truly wonderful words. And I couldn't put it better myself. Sally, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time. If you've been affected by any of the conversation that we had, or do want to obviously look for any more kind of support, then please do check out any links that we've posted on this. And obviously the incredible people that we're signposting on this. We'll continue our conversations throughout the month of May, and obviously throughout the rest of the campaign. Sally, thank you so much for your time. Hope you have a fantastic evening, and we will definitely catch up with you very, very soon. Take care.
Thanks, Simon. Love to see you. Bye.
That brings us to the end of this interview. Throughout the month of May, we've had a focus on mental health in correlation with dyslexia and how the two are related. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to click this link here and learn more from Dawn and Elizabeth Wynn as they speak about some of their own experiences about dyslexia in correlation with mental health. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.